Again, we want to welcome you to this portion of the forum, which will be dedicated to candidates for the state senate. The state senate term of office is 4 years, and there are 3 candidates for the August 14 primary election, 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. The Democratic candidate, Julie Lassa, could not attend tonight due to prior commitments. But in order to provide the most time to hear from the candidates and to provide fair and equal opportunity, I will again remind you that each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening remark, for opening remarks, and will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. They will then have 2 minutes for their closing statements. Candidates are asked to keep their remarks germane to the questions and fair to the participants. And this moderator reserves the right to interrupt in case those ground rules are not observed, okay? So we will now begin with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate, and beginning with Steve Abramson.
Hello, my name is Steve Abrahamson, and I'm running for State Senate, District 24. That includes about 6 counties. I would like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for allowing this forum to happen, for people in Portage County to get to know what I'm about and what my opponent on the Republican ticket is all about. Basically, I'm just a common person with common sense, and I like to take that down to Madison and restore faith and value in the state government. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will hear from Scott Noble.
Hello, I'm Scott Kenneth Noble, and I'm running for State Senate District 24. I entered this race because I felt like our current representative wasn't being responsive to our concerns. And as I got around, first starting out with getting nomination signatures, what I had experienced is what I had heard from the folks that I had got signatures from. They wanted an elected official that would listen and respond to their concerns. And my pledge to you is that I will be accountable and accessible to you, the voters of the 24th Senate District. What do I stand for? Free markets. True free markets. Lower taxes. General common sense principles. I'd appreciate you listening to what I have to say and making an informed decision. In politics, the way they're set up today, you're either Republican or Democrat. You'll find me to be a very open-minded individual. I don't specifically fit into either category. I think I'm probably considered a Republican because I'm formerly a Marshfield alderman, and I'm an unwavering fiscal conservative. I probably was one of the most conservative in the history of the city of Marshfield. So I want to get us away from this tax, borrow, and spend philosophy. I'd like us to just balance the budget just like we do with our checkbooks. So I would appreciate a fair listen from all you, and I would appreciate you listening to what I have to say and finding out more about me. Thank you.
We will now move to the question period. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. For the first question, we begin with Scott Noble. The amount of public funding to the university system has decreased. How would you suggest we maintain the quality of our university system?
Well, one philosophy that I'd like to get away from with regard to university, I graduated from UWSP, by the way, and I've taken 20-odd some credits of graduate work. I'm licensed as a social studies teacher. role in Native American social minor, sociology, and history. I'm also a certified social worker. So I went through the University of Wisconsin-Stevens plan. One thing that I've found is there's a lot of wasteful spending, and just throwing money at the university isn't the answer. I met with a county board supervisor in Wood County, probably one of the more fiscal conservative ones on the board. He showed me a breakdown of just one grant. It was under the, I think it was a federal grant. It was for obesity. It was $2.3 million. As I kind of went down and looked through it, there was a lot of subsidies to corporations, advertising. Two of them right at the top were university professors. And unbelievable amounts of money. Because one of the things you have to do if you're in government is you're supposed to spend whatever you have. If it's $2.3 million, you have to spend it because you can't get more if you don't spend it. So I mean, if that literally means just blowing it, that's what you got to do to get more. I don't buy into that philosophy. So if you want to have the university system become more effective, you got to have better use of the money that we have in it. Another thing that's interesting about my experience at University of Wisconsin is that you need to teach how to think, not what to think. And that is a very important thing that we don't get in our current university system. And just throwing money at that won't solve that problem.
And Steve Abramson, would you give your remarks? Same question.
I have to agree with Mr. Noble. There's a lot of professors that teach in the UW system. They teach soft classes that have nothing to do with the real world. People take these just to fill credits and this and that and everything else, and it's wasteful. Get rid of those professors. We're going to cut down on the benefits. We're going to cut down on teachers' wages, etc. There's so much waste. I don't even really know where to begin. And, you know, like what Mr. Noble said, a lot of the teachers there are trying to teach people what to think, not how to think. It's actually going down into our grade schools and our high schools. It's starting in our 4K programs. This stuff has to stop. Every step you go up, it gets more and more and more and more. And finally, you're at the UW system. So we really need to take a look at it and cut big time. Thanks.
Again, I would remind members of the audience, if you have questions that you'd like to ask of these candidates, if you'd raise your hand and one of our members will see you with a card for you to express that question. For the second question, we will begin with Steve Abramson. How would you address economic and environmental concerns when developing legislation to attract employers to central Wisconsin?
Pretty simple answer to that would be to totally ignore the UN. The UN is actually trying to take over our country with their Agenda 21. You know, there's things that have been implemented like the smart growth and things like that. These are very hurtful for businesses coming to Wisconsin. Recently, there's a dairy farm in Wood County. There's so much opposition to it, and a lot of people are citing things from the UN. So they're using UN things to dictate what our laws are. We need to actually have a smart view on this. There's so much rhetoric out there about the dangers of the environment, like this and this and this and this. It's all overblown. Yes, we do have to protect the environment. We have to be good stewards of the earth. But there is a line that needs to be drawn. Thank you.
And Scott Noble, would you respond to that question?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, I will. How would you address economic and environmental concerns when developing legislation to attract employers to central Wisconsin?
First off, the 24th Senate District is not central Wisconsin. It's central and western Wisconsin. And central and western Wisconsin has new industries that are coming in. And one of them I had a very important role in. When I was an alderman back in 2008, I brought the first frac sand mining outfit into the area. Actually, they were the family business that my father started. Had what effectively was a business incubator in the back. And there was a company, Completion Industrial Minerals, that was in our building in a little room for 6 years. It shouldn't take 6 years to get a company going. Now, with regard to the environment, I remind you I'm a teacher. I remember, Dr. Sievic talking about environmental education. The program that we did there, up on the northern side of Wood County, we don't have water bodies like they do in Wisconsin Rapids or Stevens Point or Toma or Sparta. What we did is we had wastewater being cleaned in the factory, and they used that to actually complete their frac sand production. And it piggybacks perfectly with our infrastructure that we already have in central Wisconsin. It works well with cranberries because the sand that's excess is also sustainable. It's the quote-unquote bad sand, which is used in the cranberry bogs. So not only does it help by giving our private sector jobs by creating new high-paying $18 an hour jobs, it also piggybacks our cranberry industry, our trucking industry, and works well with the infrastructure we already have in central and western Wisconsin.
Thank you. For the next question, now we will move on to questions from the audience. And for the next question, again, each speaker will have 2 minutes to respond. And the first question, we will begin with Scott Noble. What specific programs would you cut to balance the budget?
Specifically, it's hard to say. There's a lot of bureaucracy in Madison that's wasteful. The example I gave earlier, I'll just use. $2.3 million for obesity grant. The county board supervisor that I talked to suggested to the supervisor of this department, why don't you weigh every member of the county board and weigh every county employee? And then we'll see at the end of this program if we did anything. So I think I would start with this idea that if we don't take money from the federal government, somebody else is going to get it. Ultimately, it's taxes. Whether or not we get it, it's not free money. We have to kind of get away from that paradigm. Just like we do with our checkbook. Do we spend more than we have? No. So I get back to my original tax, borrow, and spend. We can't get away with that. So where would I cut? There's just a ton of places we'd cut. I wouldn't think that we'd want to be unfair when we do cuts because we want to balance the budget. I know there was some earlier talk about state workers, collective bargaining at Act 10. I think that should be done across the board You know, if there's, you know, I'm a teacher, and so I'm looking at it like anybody that's a employee, be it that they have collective bargaining or not. I'm talking non-union. Because one of the main things when I was in city government, the bosses never, ever, ever could make the same as the people that work for them. So when the public sector union raised the wages, you automatically gave the non-union people a raise because you didn't want to have what they call compression. So it's not about collective bargaining of public unions. It's about across the board. And I would include our elected officials too.
Thank
So-
you, Mr. Noble. With Steve Abramson, you have the same question. What specific programs would you cut to balance the budget?
The programs that I would cut, I guess it depends upon what you mean by cut. Do you mean totally eliminate, or do you mean to reduce? Right now, the biggest waste in our state government money is the DPI, Department of Public Instruction. Each community has to send the money down to them, that they send it back. It's a waste. They also instruct a lot of the school board members that they have to go to these special sessions, special training things, special meetings to come up with a curriculum. And when they do that, the DPI a lot of times goes beyond what they have recommended, and they instruct their own curriculum. There's a lot of it that has tended to lean extremely left, and I don't think that's right. All we're doing with going with this is allowing the schools to teach our kids that the government is the only way. The government is the only one that can support you, the only one that cares for you, the only one that loves you. So all these entitlement programs now become no longer a safety net for society, but it becomes generational. There's a lot of waste because kids grow up learning this. We need to cut that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will begin the next question with Steve Abramson. What role does prevention play in keeping down healthcare costs? And would you be in favor of state funding of prevention programs such as smoke-free air laws and other policies?
Preventive medicine is a good thing. You know, there's programs out there that you should be doing. You should be staying in shape, keeping healthy. But what's healthy to one person is not necessarily healthy to another person. So how can the government actually dictate how we should be? Through some of my employers, we learned about ladder safety. And it was beaten to us repeatedly because we were running up and down 5 stories of stairs on a daily basis, 12-hour shifts in hot conditions. Well, I'm walking with a cane because I fell off a roof. So it doesn't matter how much you beat that into a person, there's still that freak accident that's just around the corner. Doesn't matter how preventive you want to be. The unknown is that. It's unknown. As far as smoking, I've got a real issue with the state telling a business owner that they have to close their doors and not allow people to smoke in the building. It should be left up to the individual business owners. I think they're infringing on the business owner's rights. It needs to be repealed. It should all come down, realistically to self-responsibility. Everybody should be responsible for themselves. Look where you're walking. Look for hazards. If you see a hazard, take care of it before it affects somebody else. Thank you.
And Scott Noble, would you care to answer that question, or would you like me to repeat it? What role does prevention play in keeping down healthcare costs? And would you be in favor of state funding of preventive programs such as smoke-free air laws and other policies?
Prevention is good, but kind of going back to what I said before, like in Wood County, $2.3 million for working with prevention and working with obesity. Kind of similar to smoking. I guess I have a problem with that on several levels. Probably the most is its effectiveness. Also, I don't like the idea of all the way down to K4 schools that they actually weigh the students in class so that they can sell the information to these, big subsidies that they're getting. And the amount of money spent on it is incredible. When I looked at it, advertising, the biggest one I saw was actually conventions all over the country. Georgia. I've been to those conferences, being in the social work field, and teaching would be the same. When you go to one of those events, they're always at the most expensive place to stay. They come with all the bells and whistles. You meet with your breakout sessions and things like that, but they really are a long ways away. They cost a lot of money, and what do we really get out of it? So that's one of the areas where I'd like to see us get out of, is intrusion rather than helping. With regard to smoking, I don't think a business owner should be required to follow that. I would think that it would be, a way to do it is have smoke, like with regards to bars and restaurants. You could have one restaurant that is smoking and another that's not. I mean, what would be wrong with that? I mean, I think I have the right to breathe clean air. I don't smoke, never did. I don't want to breathe secondhand smoke. But I just think that you should be able to have each particular establishment have one or the other.
Thank you. The next question, we will begin with you, Mr. Noble. How can we assure fair and adequate and equitable funding for K through 12 education? And which funding reform do you envision?
Well, education is a very passionate issue for me, being that I'm a teacher. I think the best area, this goes back to my philosophy of free markets. The MacIver Institute, which is probably considered by many a right-wing think tank, said that, I'm in the town of Richfield, Marshall School District. The Marshall School District was ranked second in the state. But in reality, they're second in the city of Marshall, second to the parochial school. They work on a shoestring budget, but their ACT scores are better. They're a lot of times a year ahead. I think the best thing to do with funding is to make it more competitive by expanding school choice. We saw how it's working in Kenosha and Milwaukee, and it could work for the entire state to have the option to homeschool, private school, or public school. I've heard the term open enrollment used kind of like school choice, but actually that's just cannibalizing other school districts. Where a smaller school district ends up losing students to the bigger school district, and then they are having to merge their football program with another school, or merge the whole school together, or close. So the best way to keep education at the highest optimal level for the lowest amount of money is to open up the competition and have school choice across the state. And how that would be done is the option of using your taxes toward the school of your choice.
Steve Abramson will ask you to respond to the same question.
I agree with Mr. Noble. School choice is a great thing. It opens up the competition. A lot of times we hear about these teachers that are sitting in the rubber rooms because they don't have any classes, because, well, they got in so much trouble, but they can't fire them because of the unions. Here's the chance to get rid of them. Do the school choice. Competition's going to be there. We're going to find out what school systems are the best, the greatest. We can get our students in there, and we can work on the ones that are losing their students. Work with them a little bit. Try to get them up to the same standards as the school that's getting all the students. But it all comes down to the teachers. There's some teachers that they feel they're entitled to their paycheck, regardless of what they're teaching. I've discovered that in Rapids. The school board is just so into the back pocket of the teachers union that what they say goes. With collective bargaining ending, they just negotiated new contracts for the teachers. They didn't call it collective bargaining, they called it consensus bargaining. It's the same thing. We need to really, really take a look at some of these things. And we need to put a stop to it. Scott Walker is doing great things on most things. We need to really work on those and implement them to their fullest. It's going to help the state in the long run. It'll help the state for my kids, my grandkids. So help us to help Scott Walker. Thank you.
Thank you. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and we will begin with Steve Abramson.
Okay, for the Senate District 24, you have 2 choices on the Republican ticket. Both of us. We bring great ideas. We both have backbones that are willing to stand up. We need to take this seat away from Julie Lassa. If you really look at some of the things that she claims to be for in her voting record, it's totally opposite. I, for one, I'm not afraid to stand here and tell you the truth. I'm not afraid to take a couple punches. I'm not afraid to get knocked down. I'll be right back up, and I will be fighting for the common person in this district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Scott Noble, would you give us your concluding remarks?
I guess, first off, I'm a little disappointed that Senator Lassa didn't make it this evening. Kind of ties in what I said into the beginning. What a lot of people I'm talking to are worried about is having an elected official that listens and responds to their concerns. She's obviously too busy to be here at an event that is probably in her favor. She doesn't care about you. I mean, the fact that my opponent on the Republican ticket and I are here is a testament to our respect for you, the voters of the 24th. I'd like you to look into my background. My website is nobleforsenate.com. You can look at how I break down on issues. And I can tell you, I don't fit into this right-left paradigm. I heard a lot of the assembly people talking, right, left. It really isn't about right or left. It's about right or wrong. And what's been going on over the last 9 years with Julie Lassa has been wrong. I'm pro-jobs. I'm pro-life. And I'm pro-freedom. The biggest thing that I see with Julie Lassa is corporatism. Now, when we talk about the left-right paradigm, doesn't that include civil liberties? What has Senator Lassa done for us with regard to civil liberties? That is the question that I ask you. Responsiveness, how does she help you on civil liberties? She's not pro-jobs. She's actually pro-public sector jobs, but not pro-private sector jobs, which run our economy. And I'm pro-freedom. And if you vote for me, you'll see that my name is used in my slogan. Freedom is a noble pursuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noble, and thank you, Mr. Abramson.
Thank you for participating today. Thank you. And the League would also like to thank the library for providing this space and for their assistance in helping us setting up. We'd like to thank the Stevens Point Journal, Portage County Gazette, and the new online newspaper, SP City Times. They'll be publishing the candidates' responses to some league-sponsored questions. And some of the questions from the audience today will be reflected in the questions that the League has asked, and that those responses will be published in the newspaper. And they will also be published on our website, which you see over there on the whiteboard. Also, if you pick up any of our literature on your way out, the website will be on there. The lwnet.org is the state website, and it has links to our website in addition to a lot of other links. We also thank John Quirk for videotaping this program for community television, and he has let us know that it will be broadcast over channels 95 and 984 on August 6th at 6:30, August 7th at 4:30 p.m. and 11 p.m., and August 8th at 7:30 a.m. And we'll have those times on our website as well. And also a special thanks to all the League members who are here, who helped us out today. If you'd like to learn more about the League of Women Voters or make a donation, as I said, please pick up some of our literature on the table as you leave. We've always received great community support as the League, and so we thank everybody for their attendance tonight. And it's just one example of how our community supports the League of Women Voters. When you vote, you're participating in one of the most basic and important responsibilities you have as a citizen, and so mostly we're asking you to please go out and vote on August 14th and remind your family and friends to vote also. Thanks again for being here tonight.